What's poppin' YouTube? It's your boy Steals Forever, and I'm back in the building. That's right, your boy Steals Forever is back in the building, hitting you guys with a quick video. Today's video, we're going to talk about Capcom, the legendary Capcom developer, publisher, legendary, man. That's all I can say. They brought me some of my favorite titles like Power Stone, Resident Evil, which I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil, huge fan of Street Fighter. I used to actually, like years ago in the arcades, I used to actually be in competition on Street Fighter. Not so much anymore. Just kind of like drifted away from the competition thing, but still that holds, Capcom's hold a very, very warm spot in my heart as a gamer. Now with that being said, earlier this week there was an article, some news that was released to the gaming websites and the internet, which basically was stating that Capcom was now up for sale. And for those that don't understand why, basically a lot of the stockholders that were safeguarding the larger percent of the Capcom stock, which I think was around 51%, basically pulled out and put it up for sale. So that means anybody, individual company can now come in and basically buy this stock for a certain price and basically own Capcom. With that being said, once the news was leaked, the internet went crazy. Basically all types of different gamers and journalists was basically voicing their opinions about who should buy Capcom. So basically in the video, what I'm going to do is just run down a couple of companies, which are the big three, Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, and give my opinion about who should buy Capcom and who should not. Also at the end, I'm going to give you my opinions on a company that I really think that would do the best job with Capcom. Now, with that being said, the first company up is Microsoft. Now, I think if Microsoft buys Capcom, I think Microsoft has the most to gain from buying Capcom. I don't think it would actually help Capcom that much, considering that most of the games that Capcom puts out have a heavy install base in Japan. Like most of the games that Capcom releases does actually better in Japan than they actually do in the States. Like Biohazard, which is Resident Evil over here, is huge in Japan. Monster Hunter is huge in Japan. Street Fighter is actually huge in Japan. So much so that Street Fighter actually has, they still actually have the actual arcade rooms where the Street Fighter actual arcades are at. So I think Microsoft could, if they bought them, I think it may help them create a presence in Japan, considering they don't really have a presence in Japan. But at the same time, the question would be, even if they bought Capcom, would it create a presence for them, or would it just actually just spell the doom of most of Capcom's games? Because the question would be, would the actual Japan audience buy into buying an Xbox One to actually play the Capcom games? So that's why I would have to say, and I don't really see Microsoft buying them. I don't really see Capcom actually wanting to negotiate with Microsoft into buying Capcom. Now I could be wrong. I could wake up tomorrow and it could be them bought Capcom. Hey, just my opinion. Now the next company, when this news was announced, the internet went crazy. Facebook, Twitter went insane. Basically a lot of gamers and a lot of Nintendo followers was up in the roar, screaming at Nintendo to buy Capcom. Now, where I think that some titles would actually do well on Nintendo, like Monster Hunter, Mega Man, I think actually Power Stone. Power Stone is a game that was out from Dreamcast that hasn't been touched, that actually Capcom made and published, that I think would do very nicely on the Wii U and 3DS system. But the Resident Evil and the more mature related content games that they have, I don't know how they would actually fare on the Wii U. Now with that being said, Resident Evil 4 was actually on the GameCube. But back then I think the Nintendo had a more broad base of gamers still gaming on their systems. Not saying they don't have hardcore gamers on the Wii U at the time. I just think that a lot of the hardcore gamers at the time have now moved on to the Xbox One, the PC, and the PS4. I could be wrong. Resident Evil could do actually great on the Wii U. It's just something that we would just have to test to see. But that's where I'm becoming a little iffy with Nintendo buying Capcom. Now, what I know would not do well on Nintendo is Street Fighter. There lies the biggest problem is Resident Evil and Street Fighter. And games like Dragon's Dogma. Like Street Fighter, I just don't see it. I just don't see Street Fighter doing well on any Nintendo system because it has its niche in Japan in the arcade rooms and on PS3s, PS4s, and Xbox 360s. I just think that that's, I just don't see that. Like I said, I could be wrong, but I just don't see Street Fighter and Resident Evil doing well on Nintendo. Could be wrong though. Now, the next company, Sony. Now, I think Sony would have the most to gain for buying Capcom. I think, in my personal opinion, out of the big three, I think Sony should be there right now talking to Capcom. Preferably, they should have been there the day or the day before the news was announced, bidding on buying Capcom. The reason being is that Monster Hunter is already a proven success on the PSP. Street Fighter is already a proven brand on Sony systems. Resident Evil, which is Biohazard in Japan, is already a proven success in Japan. Dragon Dogma and countless other games. When you come to the States, all those games I'm naming do very, very well on Sony platform. So to me, I think Sony can scoop in right now and almost put a nail in the coffin to basically win the console war. I think this one move by Sony could actually just win the console war by just buying Capcom. If it was me, and if I was the president of Sony, I would definitely be there and buy it because it would basically give them access to like dozens of games which would become exclusive. Just imagine if Resident Evil was exclusive to the PS4 and Street Fighter was exclusive to the PS4 and and Monster Hunter came back to the Vita and things like that. So out of the big three companies, I think that Sony has the most to gain. And I think by them having the most to gain, I also think that it would be in Capcom's best interest because their titles are being safe in the safe hands, where their title will still be able to strive and be on, a big console, the big three publishers, whatever. But now my next company that I think that should buy Capcom if the big three pass up on them is Namco Bandai. Out of all the companies or the publishers, I think Namco Bandai, what they stand for and the type of games they deal with would fit perfectly with Capcom. Capcom and Namco Bandai has done plenty of work in the past and present before, and they seem to have a really good working partnership. So I can see most of the games scribed. Namco Bandai does a lot of fighting games. Capcom does a lot of fighting games. Namco Bandai is into like RPGs like Neo Kuni and Dark Souls and the Armor Cores and things, and Dragon Ball Z's and Naruto's. So I think that, based off just a normal publisher, I think Namco Bandai is probably the best fit for them. And I think that at the same time, it's important that Capcom sells to a company that's gonna give their games the best chance of surviving. And that way, if they did sell to Namco Bandai, they still would be multiplayer. Because if they go to Sony, it's more likely. If they go to Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft, it's more likely that the games they have will become exclusive. Or if they go to Namco Bandai, it'll still be a broad. So you still could get Monster Hunter on the 3DS, or you might get one on the Vita, but you still get, maybe we get some Mega Man on the 3DS. So I just think it's a better overall fit. Like always, you guys hit the like button and comment below in the comment section. Let your boy Steels know, who do you think, Nintendo or Sony, or who should buy it, man? Who should buy Capcom? Let me know in the comment section, who do you guys feel should buy Capcom, and tell me why. Just don't say the company. Tell me why you feel they should buy Capcom. Like always, it is your boy Steels forever. Later.